Harper's hair story this season. Because, we started with the braids, then we went natural. She's still natural, but a different style. How did you guys incorporate that into the storyline this season?
I was thinking, she's lost her job at Pierpoint. She's trying to stay in London. She's got this shit job she doesn't want. I was thinking very what happens when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, and when I hit rock bottom, I shave my head. It's a nice, clean reset, So I'm imagining that's what happened. And also, I don't feel like Harper's the kind of girl to, find her braider in her salon. I feel like she doesn't think about that. So it was maybe just easier for her to chop it all off.
It's a really sleek look. I like it this season. She really gets into it with the blazers and everything.
Oh, thank you.
So you guys have had an audience that's kind of grown online with you, especially here in America, kind of tweeting, making fan cams of Rob to get people interested in the show. What does it feel like to have such a dedicated audience that's been with you this whole time?
I mean, honestly, I know for a fact the only reason we are stood here today is because of how relentless our very niche, very loud fans from season 1 have been. They've stayed with us from day 1, and I'm so grateful for their support. I'm so happy that what we're making is exciting them. So thank you to all of y'all who have been sticking around.
I've been in them Twitter streets, I'm telling you, since season 1.
Twitter streets are kind of fun.
Since 2020, yeah, I've been there. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I feel like accountability is a theme this season. And Harper really seems to struggle with that. I mean, that's something that's been present throughout all the seasons. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about her character, and she kind of seems to ratchet between believing them and not believing them. And then she has that fight with Eric. So how do you imagine, I don't want to say how do you imagine Harper views herself, but how does she kind of navigate that struggle between what she thinks of herself and what other people say she is?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some people's opinions that get to her. Eric is one of them. And it sort of feeds the pessimistic, angry ego in her. And instead of leaning in and being how do I feel? She's how can I defeat this feeling? How can I prove them wrong? How can I completely ignore this and then go impress people beyond their imaginations? So I would say she's avoidant, mostly.
But thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Of course, nice to meet you too. Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, you guys have had an audience kind of grow up online with you guys, kind of promoting the show and kind of drawing attention to it. What does it feel like for you to have an audience that's so dedicated to your show?
Well, at first, it was, I guess the perception was that we were kind of flying under the radar for a while. We had an audience, and they were kind of, the OG audience. I mean, we will always love them. They kept us afloat. Now it's widening. The thing I'm most surprised about is that it seems to run the gap. There's no typical industry viewer. I've been stopped on the street from everywhere from teenagers to senior citizens who watch industry. I usually have a kind of guess whenever somebody stops me of who where they're recognizing me from. And I have a hard time pinning down industry fans because they run the gamut.
There's a lot of younger girls who are really into the show and in particular really big fans of you. I don't know if you knew that.
I get stopped by a lot of finance bros.
Really?
Yeah, who are very excited to tell me that they're in finance.
Yeah.
I don't know if they think I'm actually in finance,
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's my main, if I were to say the most people who stop me, it's them.
And then also, obviously your dynamic with Harper is pretty essential in terms of, the times that we see them on screen. Could you talk a little bit about how Eric feels now that he's kind of done what he did to Harper in season 2 and she's out on her own?
Well, he's surprised to hear that she's still in the business. And I think, it's gone from just wanting her out of the picture to Eric is sort of a master of creating his own reality. And I think with Harper, that reality kind of morphs. And it's by the time we start season 3, she's almost become a monster in his mind that she is not in life. She's a threat to him in a way that she has yet to show evidence of. So she has the reality of her is of his own making. So yeah, that's where he's at with Harper at first.
And there's a lot of, themes this season in terms of
I'm sweating for you.
It's so hot back here. It's so hot. There's a lot of talk this season about more fairness and equity and kind of woke. The terms have been used a lot. How do you think Eric is trying to walk the line of, now that he's become a partner, how he navigates the space, especially with this relationship he's developing with Yasmin?
The reason he even made partner was because he kind of piloted, he kind of drove Pierpoint's foray into ethical investing. That's what he's. But I don't think his motivation has anything to do. He cares about what is good for people as long as it serves his bottom line. So I think to Eric, it's another item to sell. So yeah, he's a salesman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to see that Rishi is more involved in the show. I feel like he was, kind of there with his comments in the background, but now he's more involved. How is that for you, kind of stepping into a bigger role this season?
It was humbling because it meant that the boys believed in me. I think, it's a testament to any actors watching that you just don't know what's going to happen in that sense. Season 1 of Rishi is very much a functional character, as we touched on. He's sort of on the periphery of those grads. Season 2, that elevates a little bit more. He has the interactions with Harper. We see his life off the trading floor with the engagement. And then season 3, the boys believed in me to run with this episode, and I'm so grateful. It was just one of those humbling moments where you work your whole life for an opportunity like this, and then it comes someone like me. I'm South Asian, I'm British. We don't always have these opportunities on HBO or any other network. So to get the chance to do it, it was kind of cool. Let's get to work. Let's figure it out. Let's get our head down and make it the best episode.
You were
possible.
fantastic, by the way. I've
so
heart
great.
palpitations that whole episode.
Have you seen all of them?
Everything but the finale.
Okay, fine.
So,
fine.
you definitely had me stressed out in the way Harper usually does.
Yeah. Well, that's how we thought about this season. So if you think about some of the trades we did in season 2, season 3 is that trade the whole season.
Yeah.
And that's the way we looked at it.
And so you guys have had an audience online that has kind of been really helping and promoting the show and wanting to get you guys honestly to where you are now with bigger budgets and bigger audience. How does it feel to have such a dedicated audience?
We're so lucky, because in a time where there's so much content available, so many programs on the show, on the TV, on streamers, if we can hang in there and just keep going, then we're doing something correct. The fact that we got to season 3, where the 2 seasons before were hit by COVID a little bit.
Yeah.
The fact that we're here is testament to the writing, is testament to our fans who sort of love the show, and if we can keep doing that, then we're in a good place.
Yeah, and earlier at the press conference, you were talking a lot about how Rishi is kind of in this new zone, and he's kind of having to, watching the show, he's kind of having to now take accountability for the things that he's done and the things that he said. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of journey that he's on, kind of trying to understand the man that he is?
That's a really interesting question, because I think when we get to the end, I think there's a lot of questions about morality from Rishi. He's trying to figure out the type of man that he is.
Yeah.
He lives in this, he works in this culture of, I know it's a buzzword, but this toxic masculinity. And I think we get to a point where he's looking at himself and trying to figure out the man he wants to be. He's a husband now, he's a father now, and some of his behavior has gone against him. And he gets to a crossroads of trying to figure out that type of man that he's going to become.
And last question, if you could give him any advice, what would you tell him?
Chill out, man. Chill out. Life's not that serious. You know what? It comes and goes very quickly. So don't have a heart attack too soon.
Yeah, his passion is admirable, though.
It's so admirable, and in a way, me as Sagar, that's something I took away from him. He has an innate confidence about him. He's like this front-footed guy who sort of lives on the edge and works hard and plays hard. And if I was able to take a little bit away from him from that, then I'm lucky.
Yeah. It was so nice to meet you.
Oh, lovely
Thank
to
you so
meet
much.
you. Thank you so much.